Thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Who is Final Fantasy's worst monster? The monster that elicits uncontrollable sobbing, unprecedented pant-shitting, and pained groaning with a side of "not again." And I'm not going to talk about the bosses in this video. They deserve their own. So if I see you in the comments saying, "But what about Seymour?" I'll know that you're just trolling me. The Iron Giant is a steely thorn in my side every single time it appears. Its most iconic qualities are its high defenses along with gargantuan HP. It is a giant after all. And Final Fantasy VIII marks my first foray into the big boys battle. Because as someone who loves to 100% Final Fantasy games, this guy is all but mandatory if you're not going to spend hours playing cards. I mean, I am going to spend hours playing cards, but that's besides the point. Many ultimate weapons in this game require the star fragment as a crafting component. And the fastest way to get it is fighting Iron Giants. And if you're not prepared, this is a frustrating feat. But you know what game has a ton of Iron Giants? War Thunder, a comprehensive vehicle combat game available on PC and consoles. They've even released a new mobile version. So with 95 million players, now you can enjoy epic PvP matches on the go. And the combat in this game is intense. You can see which part of your enemy's vehicle you're damaging in real time. It even has an epic X-ray view so you can see exactly how you obliterated your opponent. With more than 2,500 modern tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships, there's a vehicle for everyone. It even has historical vehicles like 1920s armored cars. But if you're still not satisfied, you can use their comprehensive customization system to camouflage your vehicle, or just put a cool monkey on it. Gotta figure out how to get that guy a banana. So click our links to try out War Thunder on PC, consoles, or mobile for free. New players and those who haven't played in 6 months can receive the massive bonus pack with exclusive Vehicle Decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium account. That bonus is only available on PC and consoles and only for a limited time, so make sure you don't miss it. Thank you again to War Thunder for sponsoring us, and now let's get back to the big metal boys. Quistis has an automatic delete button for him in the form of the Degenerator Limit Break, but if you somehow miss that, the Iron Giant has Mighty Guard, halving the damage you deal to it. And it also has a powerful multi-target sword attack that can wipe out an unprepared party, but you probably are prepared for it honestly, since the junction system is ridiculously broken. In Final Fantasy IX, though, such exploits are not possible. But there are other ways to deal with this guy. Eiko can use her Carbuncle summon to cast Vanish on the entire party, making his attacks ineffectual. But if you're not fast enough, he can use Helm Splitter to drop a character's HP to 1. And that's hugely annoying. In Final Fantasy X, though, they actually come early enough that they're not the biggest deal, with low enough HP to be dropped quickly by Riku's item skill. And it's these obvious weaknesses that make the Iron Giant only number 10. You definitely get an oh shit moment the first time it drops you, but the surprise turns to boredom once you've banished this guy to the Shadow Realm a few times. Cactuars are one of my favorite monsters in Final Fantasy, and I'm actually quite conflicted about them, which is why they're number 9. On one hand, encountering a Cactuar elicits a celebration. They generally are the source of huge EXP and AP gains, and they're often the most effective way to power level. But just like Kel from Good Burger, millennials, you know this reference, they have a secret sauce that can spice up any encounter with them.
You carry your own sauce? Doesn't everybody?
And the general recipe for this dreadful cactus condiment is 1 part massive physical evasion, making regular attacks a terrible way to damage them, 1 part massive magic defense, making magic largely ineffectual, and a final part extreme cowardice. Cactuars love to retreat, depriving you of that sweet, sweet experience boost. But there's one more thing that gets them a spot on this list. If a Cactuar doesn't retreat or die, there's a good chance that it will use its 1,000 Needles attack. And while a well-equipped team probably won't be too fazed by this, a weaker team or one on life support might find this attack to be a complete game ender. But since it only does 1,000 damage each time it's used, the Cactuar can't go higher on the list than this. But even though it's high on the terrible enemies list, it's in the top 3 for my favorite Final Fantasy enemies. The bomb is one of the most iconic monsters in Final Fantasy, and one of the most simple concepts. You touch it, it go boom. But if you can destroy it fast enough, you might escape its inevitable explosion. And each game introduces a new form of these explosive eggheads to torture you with. In Final Fantasy IV and V, they self-destruct when they reach low HP. That makes them especially frustrating if you just barely miss the kill. In Final Fantasy VI, they self-destruct whenever you hit them and they don't die. In Final Fantasy VII and X, your first 2 attacks cause them to to swell up and they explode after a third. And in Final Fantasy VIII, the bomb gains strength and magic each time you attack it, finally self-destructing and dealing damage equal to its remaining health to the character. And just for added fun, bombs can also use the Meltdown spell in this game. This can inflict the Vitality 0 status effect, increasing the damage that other monsters deal. So while these creatures are temperamental and annoying, I do appreciate that they've been creatively reinvented in each installment. The cockatrice gets one gimmick in almost every Final Fantasy. It can make you rock hard. And while you might think that this enemy isn't as annoying as some of the earlier ones, I don't like getting stoned. At least not in Final Fantasy. The reason I feel this way though is probably just as important as my placement, and it's that the stone status can actually be worse than death. I think most people probably stock up on Phoenix Downs when they play Final Fantasy games. Having a dead character is super annoying, but the petrify status does the exact same thing, only you need a special item or spell to cure it, usually Asuna or Soft. And I have definitely been in a situation where I didn't prepare, ended up with a stoned character, and had to backtrack to an inn to cure them. It's one of the most annoying oh shit moments I've ever experienced, and I'd rather not see these nasty bird brains again. Ahrimen, and ahriwomen for that matter, are a nasty surprise in the best of situations. Unless you like giant eyeballs, I guess. They're best known for causing heinous status effects, debilitating your team if not dealt with quickly. Final Fantasy X contains one of the most frustrating iterations of this monster. In Final Fantasy, confusion causes your characters to attack each other instead of the enemy, and there are several ways to get rid of the confusion status. The Asuna spell is probably the easiest way to do it, assuming it's available, and a remedy will do the trick too. But what makes confusion awful is that once you're in that precarious position where everyone alive is confused, your characters might just evade all of your friendly fire, including when they try to whack themselves. And this means enemies have free reign to use all kinds of attacks against you, and that can go well. If they use a weaker physical attack, your character might just snap out of it.
That will be quite enough.
But not Ahriman. In this game, they use this weird attack that looks like projectile vomiting wind at your team, and it's a magical attack, so it doesn't break you out of confusion. So they can just wreck your entire party while your party is unsuccessfully trying to kill each other. But here's the thing, the Ahriman can only confuse one character at a time, and a monster that I'm going to talk about later in this video takes it to the next level. Oh, and in Final Fantasy Tactics, they can inflict stone on your characters, which is bad. The Mimic is a rarer enemy in Final Fantasy, but in the games it's present in, it is insanely annoying. In Final Fantasy IX, they exist in Burmecia, replacing several treasure chests. They call in the Magic Vice enemy, who will steal items, often ethers, from your party. And while Mimics may be annoying in this installment, Final Fantasy X took it to the next level. In this game, the player learns early that seeing a chest in battle is your cue to steal from it, cracking the lock and stealing the loot inside. But in the Omega Ruins, doing this can lead to a chest becoming a mimic. Mimics can take 4 forms, each with their own strengths. Unfortunately though, they don't necessarily broadcast their weaknesses, so most players, unless hilariously overpowered, will probably take a death or two. What keeps the mimic out of the top of my personal shit list though, is that it's a great source of gil. So in a way, I'm kind of happy to see them when they pop up, provided I'm prepared for them. Behemoths are super strong in just about every Final Fantasy iteration. They tend to be pretty tanky with some of the highest health totals in the game, and they often have access to the Mighty Guard skill, allowing them to use that health better than many other enemies. And they also have access to some of the strongest spells in the game, namely Meteor and Flare, along with ass-wrecking physical attacks. And even more annoying, in several iterations, Behemoths have a nasty habit of reacting negatively to player actions. And their counters, particularly when stacked with their native actions, have destroyed me many times. In Final Fantasy VI, any summons used against them are countered with Meteor, and in Final Fantasy IX, they can counter any attack with Meteor. It's pretty nasty, and I think they've earned their number 4 slot. But before we head to the number 3 slot, let's talk about some dishonorable mentions. Landworms are one of my favorite enemies, and also one of the most funny to yeet with Auron.
Whoa! It's out of here!
They typically have gargantuan HP stats, and this exacerbates the danger of their antics, because in many iterations, they also have the ability to swallow a character, temporarily removing them from battle. And I know a lot about swallow, but beyond that, they're pretty straightforward and tend not to do anything too oppressive. Toads typically have one job: they turn you into a toad. And while this is annoying, their attacks can also revert you back from toad if they hit you a second time. So overcoming them is typically just a matter of waiting until they undo their work. Chimeras tend to be powerful enemies that can absorb some number of elements, forcing you to be a bit more thoughtful when you fight them. But there are far worse enemies, and they're typically pretty manageable. Dragons are a menacing presence, particularly in Final Fantasy IV, where they can show up in huge groups and can't be fled from. However, there are plenty of weak ones as well, which means I don't think they can really be a serious contender. Ochus are probably the worst of the honorable mentions, known for inflicting multiple status effects on players. And while they certainly could have been on the list, there's another enemy that makes them look like plant-based punies. They're pretty annoying in Final Fantasy X though. But here we are, the top 3. The Tarama, also known in some games as a coeurl, whatever. Well, they make me angry. They first appeared in Final Fantasy II. In this game, they can use the Blaster X skill. This inflicts paralysis on the entire party and cannot be dodged. Even the ribbon, an accessory that blocks every status effect in the game, cannot block this status effect. And this kind of rule breaking is typical for these mischievous kitties, though they took a break from being broken for a few games. In Final Fantasy VIII, though, they gained the ability to inflict Petrify, though this can't bypass status resistance. And in Final Fantasy IX, Blaster inflicts Stop, a particularly nasty surprise since Stop effectively counts as a death in this game. But in Final Fantasy X, they once again can inflict Petrification with Blaster, which is undodgeable. And since status effect resistances must be placed individually and are the only way to dodge it, and you only get 4 characteristics on each armor piece, it's pretty easy to see how they might destroy your team. And in Final Fantasy XII, they gain yet another buff. Their Blaster spell can now inflict 6 different status effects at once, including Sleep. And since the game is ATB based and sort of MMO-like, it makes status effects harder to detect visually. Many times I've had a character put to sleep and been so focused on controlling my other characters that I just didn't notice until it was too late. Fortunately, these ferocious felines generally have pretty low HP totals, meaning that if you hit them hard, you can generally take them out quickly enough to prevent certain disaster. And there are 2 enemies above them that don't have this problem. If you somehow got the idea into your head that I wouldn't put tonberry onto this list, put down the fentanyl and seek help, because tonberries are disgustingly oppressive and also the source of a huge mental conflict for me. They are undoubtedly one of the cutest enemies in the series, and that only intensifies their threat level. In almost every iteration, they slowly approach the party with their lantern, perfectly unassuming. But once they get close, they slice through your defenses with their tiny yet deadly knives. And if that's not enough, Final Fantasy VIII gave them the Everyone's Grudge counterattack. This deals more damage for every enemy the character has killed. They're also one of a small number of enemies that can't be killed by Quistis' Degenerator spell. That means if you want to take them out, you're doing it the hard way, by dropping their HP to 0. Final Fantasy IX, though, gave them a reprieve. They have less than 10,000 health, meaning they can be taken down pretty quickly, and they also have a watered-down version of Everyone's Grudge. This only does damage based on the number of defeated tonberries, not the total number of enemies defeated. But Final Fantasy X powers up the attack again, now called Karma. And even scarier, if Yuna summons an Aeon, he creates a voodoo doll of that Aeon and stabs it, killing the Aeon instantly. But probably the scariest thing about tonberries is their hatred of people who have not subscribed to this YouTube channel. So protect yourself, subscribe to this channel, and consider joining the Tantacles for $5 a month, which will get you early access to my videos, and also help me make them. Thank you. Now on to the worst encounter in Final Fantasy. If you somehow have managed to avoid this creature throughout your time in this series, count yourself lucky, because without a doubt, this is the worst enemy in all of Final Fantasy. When I talked about the Ahriman earlier, I lamented the suffering caused by status effects, but the Malboro takes what the Ahriman does and ramps it up to 11. No, 111 with its bad breath attack. This attack inflicts some of the most harmful status effects in the game, and the combination of all of these status effects can lose a battle for you instantly. My personal least favorite is the combination of Confusion, Berserk, Blind, and Poison. The Poison puts your characters on a timer, the Confusion forces your characters to attack each other, the Blind means they can't hit each other to remove the confusion, and the Berserk means that even if they manage to connect, all they're going to do is physically attack the Malboro on future turns, and probably still miss it. And if all of them but Poison connect, it's actually possible to soft lock a Final Fantasy, particularly if you're able to equip auto reload regen in the particular game. And just to make things even worse, in Final Fantasy X, the Great Malboro enemy is a complete nuisance. It will always start a battle by ambushing the party and immediately casting Bad Breath, so there's a good chance that if you're not ready for them, you're dead on arrival. Don't forget to click our links below to try War Thunder. If you're new or haven't played in 6 months, you don't want to miss out on that massive bonus pack with premium vehicles and other goodies. Available only on PC and console for a limited time. Follow me on the socials I'm flashing on the screen, and click this playlist to watch all of my Final Fantasy videos, or I will use my bad breath on you. Bye.